Come on, 2, 3.
Well, good morning. Welcome back to the Broadcast Retirement Network. I'm Jeff Snyder. This is BRN AM from Monday, April 18th, 2022. And our top story today, how to help Americans claim Social Security at the right age. Today's show is brought to you in partnership with Funding Our Future. And joining me now to discuss this and a lot more is Shai Akabas with the Bipartisan Policy Center. Shai, great to see you. Thanks so much for joining us on the program this morning.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Jeff.
And we're going to talk about how we can get Americans to claim Social Security at the right age. But let's take a step back, because that Social Security Trust Fund, really important. That is a benefit that a lot of Americans depend on. We'll get into that in a minute. But just based on the pandemic and everything that's happened, based on the reports that you've read, what's your sense for the solvency of the trust fund at this moment?
As most of your viewers probably know, Social Security faces major financing problems. Unfortunately, we've known about this problem for decades, and we've had plenty of time to do something about it, but the time has been squandered by policymakers, and they haven't taken any action for the past several decades. They, for the most part, have really just been talking about the need to fix the problem and have failed to put forward any serious solutions. And now we're sitting just over a decade away from when the Social Security trust funds are scheduled to deplete their reserves, and we don't have a solution in sight. This is really concerning, because if we get to that point, benefits will be cut by roughly a quarter, and most Social Security beneficiaries can't afford to live on 3/4 of the benefit that they are receiving today. The pandemic has had an impact on this, but not as much as many of us thought originally. We expected, based on the severe shock to the economy, that because so many people were unemployed and therefore not paying in payroll taxes, it could dramatically move up the insolvency date of the trust fund. What we've actually seen is that because the economy has recovered so dramatically, it only ended up moving it by 1 year, from 2034 to 2033. So we're just 11 years away now, and that may sound like a long time, but we're dealing with a program that's so critical to millions of people's financial security, and that means that reforms need to be phased in gradually. We can't just change benefits overnight. So it's long past time that policymakers step up on this front and pass reforms to the program that not only improves the finances, but also modernizes it for a 21st century workforce and actually enhances benefits for some vulnerable groups whose benefits are really insufficient today. And Social Security's precarious condition is one of the reasons why at the Bipartisan Policy Center, we started the Funding Our Future initiative, which is a coalition of more than 60 organizations across the academic, nonprofit, and corporate spaces that are all pushing to improve retirement security for Americans, because we really need a solution to this problem, and we need one now.
Yeah, and let's hope. I know there are some policymakers and their staffs watching this program. I like your stump speech, Shai. I think we need to get working on this. Let's talk about, you talk about many Americans rely on Social Security. Just ballpark, what percent, you talked about millions, what percentage of Americans where this is their sole source of retirement income? And we'll talk about how to get other sources a little bit later on. But what's your feeling in terms of the percentage of individuals relying solely on Social Security?
So the average retiree relies on Social Security for about half of their income, meaning it's really the foundation or a chunk of their retirement security. There's about 1 in 5 retirees that relies on it for at least 90% of their income. So that would be the answer directly to your question, which for those people, it's really the lifeblood, and they have no other resources to rely on. The figures have changed somewhat over time, and that's in part because of the evolution of 401ks, where throughout the 80s and 90s, where they really picked up acceptance, and of course, increasingly in the last few decades, more and more people have a fair amount of retirement assets that they can supplement their Social Security with. And that's where the half that are only relying on Social Security for half or less of their income are principally getting the rest of their retirement income. It's 401ks. Some people have pensions, of course, but those are becoming less and less prevalent in the picture. The pandemic may have impacted this a little bit, but it's hard to tell yet because we don't really have the data. And also, it's only a 1 or 2 year shock that we've seen here. And again, the stock market's recovered, the economy's generally recovered. So I don't expect it to dramatically change those figures. What could change those figures that we're seeing right now, of course, is inflation, where if we continue to see inflation at 7-8% annual rates, I don't expect that to go on for a very long time, but even for several years, that erodes the value of people's 401k savings, whereas Social Security as a benefit is inflation protected. And so that could even increase the importance of Social Security for many people relative to what it is today or relative to what it has been in the past.
Shai, one of the key decisions for any American achieving retirement or getting into retirement is when to claim benefits. And I took a look at the Social Security website. And by the way, the same approach for Medicare too. We're not going to talk about Medicare, but why is when you file as an American, why is that so important to the amount of benefit that you're going to receive, potentially receive?
Yeah, so as we were just talking about, Social Security is a critical part of most people's financial planning for retirement. And the size of the income stream that they're getting from Social Security primarily comes down to that one decision, when they claim benefits. So that decision really matters. Most people know that 62 is the earliest age that they can claim benefits, but a lot of people don't fully understand that if they wait till age 67, their benefit can be more than 40% higher. And at age 70, more than 75% higher per month. Those higher benefit levels also last for a lifetime. So as an example, if you're collecting your benefit at age 62 and it's $1,000, then if you waited till age 67, the full retirement age or so-called full retirement age, you would get roughly $1,400 per month. And if you waited until age 70, you'd get nearly $1,800 per month. That's a large difference that also lasts for the rest of their life. And a lot of people forget about that Social Security is not just about immediate income. It's about insurance against living a long life or longer than you expect. And many people are now living well into their 80s or even their 90s, and they need that protection. The other element is that people often forget it applies to survivors' benefits. So if your spouse is going to be relying on your benefit after you pass away, this could make a big difference for how much they're receiving monthly from Social Security. So for all these reasons, it's concerning that 62 remains the most common age that people claim Social Security, and a significant majority continue to claim before their full retirement age. Many of these people aren't getting as much value out of the program as they could be. So the report that we issued at BPC finds that most people aren't provided with the right timely information to make that critical decision. And it's an overlooked area where there's a real opportunity to improve retirement security, and one that's not politically controversial, like changing benefits or taxes that we were just talking about before.
Yeah, I think if you do that, I'll just speak for myself, I think you're going to have a lot of upset people, angry people, people questioning. Shai, I need to take a very quick commercial break. When we come back, we'll talk more about how we can help Americans claim Social Security benefits and maximize those benefits. What can we do? You're going to want to stay tuned right here on BRN AM. Imagine a new television network that will make you richer, healthier, and in control of your financial future. This network is for the policewoman in Nashville, Tennessee, the baker in Dubuque, Iowa, the teacher in Lexington, Kentucky. We want to make the idea of savings and retirement culturally relevant. But what do you see as a defining issue of the midterms? Especially for the smaller businesses. I mean, they are the lifeblood of the American economy. Featuring exclusive interviews, current affairs, and docuseries. 33 years old, you retired early.
The philosophy is money only matters if it helps you live a life that you love.
But you got to start thinking about retirement as soon as you get in.
The Broadcast Retirement Network will drive very high engagement with premium partnerships. So this isn't retirement and savings for your parents or grandparents. This is for all Americans. And we're going to change the way you think about money. Welcome to the next frontier of retirement and savings. This is BRN, the Broadcast Retirement Network.
Are you stuck with a low credit score? A credit report and score that's causing you to be denied credit or pay higher interest rates than others for the same things? Then do what Terrence did and call Credit Repaired for your free credit evaluation to help restore your credit.
I started thinking about buying a new house, and my score wasn't where I needed it to be. I called and spoke with one of the representatives, and we just had a good conversation, and I liked what he was saying.
Just one call for his free credit evaluation was all it took to start back on the track to repairing his credit.
I'm seeing the deletions and I'm getting the report, so I know something's being done. It does make a difference to me.
All it takes is one call to get started.
Credit Repair has given me a second chance to have a better credit score.
Don't let a low credit score hold you back another day. Do what Terrence did and make the call for your free credit evaluation.
Call 800-819-4152. That's 800-819-4152. Again, 800-819-4152.
Welcome back. We're talking this morning to Shai Akabas with the Bipartisan Policy Center. Shai, thanks so much for staying with us this morning.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so the really important decision, and we talked about the who, the how, the why. Let's talk about improvement. And first, we got to start off with the problem. And Social Security, that decision-making process, very, very important. As you said, if you claim it at 62, a lot less benefit than if you claim at 67 to maximize what you're going to get. And by the way, it's for your entire life. Is this a lack of communication, either through, and I don't want to place blame, I'm just saying, is it a lack of communication from Social Security Administration? I've been on the website, there's lots out there. Or is it a lack of interest from Americans or employers or what? I mean, where do you think this all centers on in terms of how we fix this problem?
It's a great question, Jeff. I think the answer is really all of the above. It's a multifaceted problem that requires an array of solutions. There's no silver bullet. We need to find a set of policies that can help people get the information that they need and frame the decision in a way that can help them achieve better outcomes for themselves and their families. So, one example here is the benefit statement for Social Security that people currently are only receiving once they reach age 60. Otherwise, they have to go online to find their benefits and how much they can be expecting to receive. We know that the older population, and even not all Americans, like going online for those things. Many people still like paper statements. And there's actually research that shows that when people get those paper statements, they're more informed about Social Security and actually claim benefits slightly later. Because that's not the right decision for everybody, but relative to where we are today, many people are claiming their benefits too early. So a policy change that could help would be mailing those statements on a more regular basis. And that used to be done, but because of some funding issues that the agency has had, they haven't been doing that recently. So that's one perfect example where we could have a better transmittal of information to Americans that could help them make these better decisions. Another that's quite simple is what we call the ages that Social Security references. The early eligibility age, for example, makes a lot of people think that they're entitled to some early benefit. And in reality, what they're claiming is a reduced benefit for each month for the rest of their life. And helping people frame that decision in a way that allows people to understand what the implications are is really important. So something like the reduced benefit age or the minimum benefit age would help people relative to what they can get later understand. Also, the full retirement age doesn't make a whole lot of sense because you can keep getting higher benefits until later, up until age 70 today. So again, renaming those ages would help people better understand the decisions they're making. And then another example, when you're talking about employers or retirement plan sponsors, is about the information that they're able to provide when it comes to Social Security. Right now, many are anxious about providing any sort of information related to Social Security because they feel like they could be legally liable for anything that a participant decides to bring a lawsuit about, that they were misinformed or that they weren't provided the right information, they were provided too little information. So giving employers or plan sponsors a safe harbor that makes clear what information they're allowed to provide and how they're allowed to provide it to help people understand how their retirement plan benefits interact with their Social Security benefits could be a really powerful tool to get that education, both from the workplace and then, as we were talking about earlier, also from the Social Security Administration.
Yeah, and that's really important. I mean, it sounds to me You know, when I just think about, and having been in the retirement industry for 30 years, it all really comes down to how you can build the best foundation, but if you in the best house, but if you don't use it properly, what good is the house, right? If you don't sleep in the house, if you don't cook in the house, maybe that's a bad analogy, but you know what I mean. It really comes down to a lack of communication or education, and we've got to meet participants, individuals, where they want to be met. And an example of that, and this is because of the pandemic, a lot of people like face-to-face. I like to not just see people on Zoom. I love talking to you and others on Zoom, but I want to be able to go into a Social Security office. And they've just recently reopened some of those offices. Face-to-face is important for many Americans, and it's not just based on age.
That's right. And we've seen that struggle during the pandemic, not only, of course, in Social Security and all sorts of services that people are used to encountering face-to-face. But when it comes to Social Security, there are 1,200 field offices around the country. And in an average year, 40 million people rely on those for some type of service, whether that's claiming their benefits or getting information or finding lost benefits or some other purpose. And so now that those field offices are open, it's terrific because a lot of older Americans, all Americans, disability, of course, benefits also come from the Social Security program, but they can now rely on that service to help them with their claiming or any other issues that they have, whereas before they had to rely solely on phone or online. So that is really helpful. But what we also need to think about is now that they have that, how can we make the claiming process in person work better when it comes to, again, this critical decision about when to claim benefits? So there's a historical way that a lot of claims representatives have talked to beneficiaries or prospective beneficiaries about their benefits, which is called the break-even analysis, which says that it's only worth it to wait past age 62 if you're going to live past a certain age, so say age 80. Because if you don't live past age 80, then you're better off claiming benefits now and collecting them for more years, and the higher benefit won't actually be an overall benefit to your lifetime benefits that you collect from the program. And that framing of the issue is really difficult for beneficiaries because it doesn't allow them to think about the insurance aspect that protects them if they live beyond that age. And most people have a hard time seeing beyond the here and now. So when you're age 62 thinking, oh, I'm gonna live beyond age 80 or age 82 is really far-fetched. So giving a different framing for that context would be really helpful. And frankly, the offices have eliminated that procedure by and large because there was an instruction from the agency that wasn't the right way to frame benefits. But it's an example of how the communication of these issues can really make a difference in terms of how the decision that people are making. And we need to have the right incentives in place for claim specialists to walk the beneficiaries or prospective beneficiaries through these decisions so that they can make an informed call about what the right decision is for them or their families.
Shai, you talked about possible changes, reforms. Is it your sense that, and look, we're not here to talk politics on the program. We don't do that on this network. But that is, I think Social Security is considered like the third rail of American politics or something you really don't touch because you're going to get electrocuted. But is it your sense when you talk with policymakers and you and members of the Bipartisan Policy Center and your coalition do, is it your sense that members from both parties want to do something to shore up Social Security and also communicate in a more productive way to Americans, not just about Social Security, but about retirement and what retirement actually can mean to them?
So yes, and I'll take those two questions as two separate pieces. One is the solvency of the program and the other is the claiming decision. On the solvency of the program, there is an appetite behind the scenes to take action on this, but it's very difficult for individual lawmakers to stick their necks out on this because they don't want to be the fall person for a proposal that's not necessarily going to go anywhere. So that's why we have not seen many of these individual proposals come out in the past. I do know that there are bipartisan members working behind the scenes to try to come up with a package that could gain some momentum in Congress. So that's optimistic, or I'm optimistic about that, and that's encouraging. But I still think we're some ways away from that real solution being ready to pass both houses of Congress, maybe in the next Congress after the next election, but we seem to always say that. On the claiming side, I think that's a different story because as we were saying earlier, that's much less controversial. Everybody can agree that we should be helping households make the right decision for them about when to claim benefits. And the changes that we've been talking about on the program today are not ones that require a whole lot of heavy lifting. Giving people the benefit statement, that does cost some money, but I would argue that society will get that back in people's improved retirement security. Changing the names of the retirement ages, that's something that we could do with a flick of a pen. It's not difficult. It's just figuring out what the right terminology is to help communicate the decision. So there's a lot of members of Congress that we are working with that feel this is an important issue and that we can make some real progress on, even if we don't have the solution to the solvency of the program in sight.
Well, I think we're all behind at least solvency. I think we're all behind keeping it solvent. And I like the idea of better communication always and meeting people where they would like to be met, whether it's streaming, whether it's video, whether it's a podcast, whether it's on paper or whether it's on digital or anything else I left out. Shai, great to talk to you as always. Thanks so much for joining us and sharing your expertise. And we look forward to having you and the Bipartisan Policy Center on again very soon.
Yeah, I really appreciate you having me, Jeff. Enjoyed the conversation.
That wraps up this episode of BRN AM. Have a topic of interest, someone you think we should talk to, drop us a line. And don't forget, for all the latest curated news in lifestyle, wellness, finance, tech, so much more, all in one place and free, check out today's edition of our daily newsletter, The Morning Pulse. Want to search our archives and check out our latest content? Well, visit our website and also our streaming partners like Amazon, Roku, Samsung, over 100 different platforms. We're back again tomorrow for another edition of BRN AM. Until then, I'm Jeff Snyder. Stay safe, keep on saving, and don't forget, roll with the changes.
Waiting here for you to take and drink of. But if you're tired, come on.
Now is your opportunity to co-create content around any topic on the first lifestyle and wellness network. Reach a global audience through our platform and co-own exclusive branded content. All of our programs are available on demand and also as audio-only podcasts, so you can take us on the go. Broadcast Retirement Network, available anytime, anywhere, and on any device.
Are you being audited? And do you owe the IRS $10,000 or more in back taxes? Is the IRS threatening to take more of your money? Don't fight the IRS alone. The Tax Doctor is here to help you negotiate your tax bill and reduce your stress. The IRS can freeze your assets and seize your bank accounts, but you can stop these IRS actions. The Tax Doctor will work with you using our years of experience to represent your case to help you get the best resolution under the IRS guidelines. Help is here to deal with the IRS to reduce your stress. We've handled thousands of cases, so we know what we're doing. If you owe $10,000 or more in back taxes, do not call the IRS alone. Call a Tax Doctor now for a tax emergency analysis.
Call 800-224-6439.